Countless wars have been fought around the world throughout history on topics such as religious differences, territorial disputes, politics, and ethnicity. While war is always destructive and costly, there have been a few conflicts throughout history that have been particularly disastrous in terms of both casualties and total devastation. As with most wars, the majority of people killed in the deadliest wars of all time are innocent civilians. Wars have been a part of human history since the dawn of time. Today, we will take you through the most devastating and deadliest wars in history, so stay tuned to the end of the video, and in the meantime, subscribe to our channel. Also hit the bell icon so you never miss our videos. With that said, here's a look at the top 10 deadliest wars in history. Number 10. The Second Congo War. The bloodiest war of the 21st century was a struggle that began in the 20th. Because of its scope and destructiveness, the Second Congo War was also known as the Great War in Africa, or Africa's First World War. The Rwandan genocide, the overthrow and death of Zairian President Mobutu Sese Seko, and ethnic strife between Hutu and Tutsi peoples were all directing contributing factors. The Second Congo War, which lasted from 1998 to 2003, was one of the bloodiest conflicts in history, as well as the worst in modern African history. This war lasted 5 years and resulted in the deaths of around 5.4 million people. Although the genocides were responsible for a great number of deaths, diseases and famine caused by the war were also partially responsible. Number 9. Napoleonic Wars. Napoleonic Wars 1803 to 1815 were a series of wars declared against Napoleon's French Empire by opposing coalition of European powers. As a continuation of the wars sparked by the French Revolution of 1789, they revolutionized European armies and played out an unprecedented scale, mainly owing to the application of modern mass conscription. French power rose quickly as Napoleon's armies conquered much of Europe, but collapsed rapidly after France's disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812. Napoleon's empire ultimately suffered complete military defeat, resulting in the restoration of the Bourbon monarchy in France and the creation of Concert of Europe. During this period, it is estimated that around 3.5 to 7 million people were killed as a direct or indirect result of the war. Number 8. The 30 Years' War. The 30 Years' War took place in Central Europe from 1618 to 1648, and it was fought between Catholic and Protestant states. The disagreements finally pulled in Europe's great powers, leading in one of the continent's longest, most destructive and deadliest conflicts. Despite the fact that some parts of Europe were hit worse than others, the 30 Years' War is said to have killed almost 8 million people and injured countless others. Bubonic plague, dysentery, and typhus all create epidemic levels during the time period, with many German and Italian communities hit hardest of all. Making matters worse, many of the wartime powers also suffered bankruptcy as a result of the conflict, leaving the cleanup and rebuilding of Europe nearly impossible to achieve in the years that followed. For these reasons, the 35 Years' War remains one of the deadliest and bloodiest conflicts of human history. Number 7. The Chinese Civil War. The Chinese Civil War was a conflict fought in China during the mid-20th century between communist forces and the Republic of China. The conflict erupted following the collapse of the Qing dynasty, as government and communist forces attempted to seize power in the power vacuum that followed. Conflict ensued soon after with devastating results. To make matters worse, political and military aid from abroad deepened hostilities further between communists and nationalists, as both sides began an active campaign to eradicate the other. Although the communists, led by future leader Mao Zedong, eventually won out, the costs in regard of human lives was tremendous for the Chinese people. In total, it is estimated that nearly 8 million people died as a result of the Chinese Civil War. Many of these deaths are often attributed to the mass atrocities and genocides. Number 6. World War I. The First World War, also known as the Great War, was a worldwide conflict that originated in Europe on the 28th of July 1914. Lasting 4 years, the war resulted in the mobilization of approximately 70 million military personnel, as the European continent was engulfed by conflict in nearly every corner of the map. When the fighting finally ceased in November 1918, Europe faced devastation on a scale never before seen in history, as the continent experienced widespread political, social, economic, and cultural changes in the conflict's wake. In total, approximately 9 million military personnel lost their lives during the Great War, with an additional of 9 to 10 million civilians killed. Scholars attribute these tremendous death tolls to advances in technology, most notable the arrival of the machine gun, chemical weapons, and the advent of airplanes. Number 5. Taiping Rebellion. The Taiping Rebellion refers to a civil war that took place in China between 1850 and 1864 among the Qing government and Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, led by the heterodox Christian convert Hong Shui-Quan, who, having received visions, maintained that he was the younger brother of Jesus Christ. Against the ruling of Manchu-led Qing dynasty, the Taiping forces waged a nationalist, political, religious war against the Qing dynasty, with the goal of converting the Chinese people to Christianity. Estimated deaths from the Taiping Rebellion are difficult to measure due to the lack of official records from this time period. However, most estimates place the number of dead at approximately 20 to 30 million, with thousands of others wounded. Number 4. The Qing Dynasty Conquest of the Ming Dynasty. The Qing conquest of the Ming Dynasty, also known as the Manchu conquest of China, refers to a decades-long war between the Qing and Ming Dynasty that lasted from 1618 to 1683, originating from a series of complaints known as the Seven Grievances, which enumerated the major social and political issues facing China at this time. Rebel groups waged war against the ruling Ming Dynasty with the hope of achieving reform. Lastly, nearly 70 years, city after city fell to the rebels, with large swaths of Ming officers and government officials defecting to the rebel cause. It is currently estimated that nearly 25 million people died as a result of the war, with millions of additional people maimed and scarred from the countless battles. To this day, the Qing conquest and Ming Dynasty is considered one of the deadliest conflicts in human history, and certainly the largest of the 17th century. Number 3. Andalusian Rebellion. The Andalusian Rebellion refers to a massive war that occurred in China on the 16th of December 755 AD. Lasting nearly 8 years, the rebellion was a direct result of General An Lushan declaring himself emperor and northern China in defiance of the established Tang dynasty, featuring that their reign was close to an end. The Tang dynasty hired nearly 4,000 mercenaries to accompany their army in the battles that ensued. Spanning the reign of 3 separate emperors, the war resulted in tremendous social, economic, and political upheaval within China before the rebellion was finally crushed in 763 AD. Overall death tolls for the An Lushan Rebellion are difficult to measure, given the chaotic social and political situation that resulted from the upheaval of various populations in the region. In total, scholars have placed overall deaths at an astounding 36 million people. Number 2. Mongol Conquests. The Mongol Empire, initially named as the Greater Mongol State, was a great empire during the 13th and 14th centuries. Beginning in the Central Asian steppes, it eventually stretched from Eastern Europe to the Sea of Japan, covered Siberia in the north, and extended southward into Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and the Middle East. It is commonly referred to as the largest contiguous empire in the history of the world. At its greatest extent, it spanned 6,000 miles, covering an area of 12,700,000 square miles, 22% of the Earth's total land area, and held sway over a population of 100 million. The Mongol conquests in Europe are one of the most hostile in history. The death toll during these conquests was 60 to 70 million. According to a legend about the Mongolian army's bloodthirsty history, it is believed that around 1 million Chinese people committed mass suicide just to avoid being killed by the Mongolians. Number 1. World War II. The Second World War refers to a massive global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945 and which involved nearly all of the world's countries, divided into two separate camps, the Axis versus the Allies. The two military alliances engaged in total war for nearly 6 years, with devastating consequences in terms of both death and destruction. In total, an estimated 100 million military personnel from approximately 30 different countries were thrust into the conflict, with horrific consequences. The conflict left in its wake thousands of destroyed cities and millions of lost lives. In total, it is generally accepted by scholars that approximately 70 million people died as a result of the Second World War. Of these, nearly 20 million people were military personnel, while others, 40 to 50 million, were believed to have been civilians. The Soviet Union alone accounts for nearly 27 million of these deaths, as the war devastated large swaths of Eastern Europe for the duration of the war. It is the only war to have used nuclear weapons till date, marked by Hitler's Holocaust and mass deaths. World War II changed world politics forever. War continues to be a horrible reality for much of the world. Ethnic tensions, religious differences, and political ideologies all provide an unlimited source of animosity and hatred that too often spills over into conflict. If history once again repeats itself in the form of a worldwide conflict, the results could be catastrophic. For the sake of us all, let's hope this never occurs. With that, I would like to say goodbye. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.